faithfulness is and will be rewarded. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. My name is Chris Bailey, and this is in part 3 of this 5-part series, The Settling of Accounts, settling the score in the context of God's rewarding. There's a justice to the Lord that, in fact, he is the chief justice of all things because the law itself is the emanation of the character of God. In other words, we know what to do and not do because of what God does and what he does not do. That's how we have the law. It's the transcript. It is the reflection of who God actually is. When we think of the justice of God, oftentimes we pin that in the negative light, and then we think of the rewarding as the positive. But I would submit to us, and when we look at the Bible, the justice of God has both a negative and a positive light. It's negative for those who choose to pay for their own sins. And justice says, well, someone's got to pay for this sin. If you did not accept Christ's righteousness, you've got to pay for your sin. That's the wage of death, eternal death, the second death, as it's told in Revelation. Now, on the same hand, not the other, but the same hand, lends and gives now, well, for those who've accepted payment for their sin by accepting Christ's righteousness, you get the reward for perfect obedience, which, oh, by the way, is eternal life. And so in justice, they receive what Jesus has earned for them. Now, at the same time, when we see that God's justice to us extends beyond that moment of salvation, but even in the life of salvation, when we've done what he has said do, he will reward us for what we've done. We have the Bible parable to underscore this. Remember in Matthew chapter 24? Matthew chapter 24 is like the chapter that we use to understand the last days. Near the end of the chapter, Jesus says, "Who then is a faithful and wise servant whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing." Those who serve are those who do, not who claim, not who preach, but those who do. And so it's in the light of this last day prophetic book that Jesus says those who are faithful are those who are doing, and those who are doing are those that I call servants. Guess what? They're going to be rewarded. To illustrate this truth, let me give you a story. And he brings in this parable of the faithful and the unfaithful servants. In Matthew chapter 25, a few verses later, it says the kingdom of heaven, as we've been talking about in this series, is just like a man traveling into a far country who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. Now, mind you, this all happens, the delivering of the goods and the calling of the servants, before the reward, kind of like where we are right now. Okay, let's get back to it. And then to one, he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, and to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And in the meantime, the servants are serving. The servants are doing. The faithful servants are faithful. But not all servants are faithful. Because in the parable, there is a servant who proves to be unfaithful. He buries his singular talent and he does not use it. And using it is what would give increase to it. That's what gives it interest. But he doesn't do that. But the other 2 servants, they're considered faithful. And they're considered faithful because they do what they can. Remember, that's what servants do. Servants do. And so because they've done this, look at what Jesus says. Jesus says in the parable, in speaking to these servants, one with 5 talents, one with 2 talents, but both faithful, his Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Now go forward to verse 23. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Do you see it? Verse 21 is repeated in verse 23. But remember, verse 21 is to the servant with 5 talents. Verse 23 is to the servant with 2 talents. But guess what? They both get the same commendation. The words are literally the same. That is telling us it doesn't matter whether you're preaching to thousands or you give a Bible study to one. Whether you're cooking and you're cooking as a faithful, good Christian chef for 1,000 customers, or whether you're making dinner for your grandma. It doesn't matter whether or not you've got a portfolio with more zeros than ones. Or if you're simply taking the time to make sure that you are giving a faithful tithe on your Social Security check. It doesn't matter which one. Jesus says faithfulness is faithfulness, and that faithfulness is going to be rewarded. Get the same commendation. Family, we got to recognize that you are going to be rewarded. Whether you know it or not, you're getting rewarded now. All of us are the results of the consequences of our lives. Not every consequence is negative. Please know. Please continue. Please keep on keeping on. Don't worry about how many folks are cheering you on, and don't worry about how many folks are trying to shut you down. Focus, perform, do, be faithful for an audience of one.